Welcome to Dashing Dish. Easter is here, my family is gathered, and we're ready to celebrate. But how do we make brunch and all the delicious meals that go along with it in a healthier way? Our Easter menu includes the best baked egg frittata bursting with flavor, a vibrant strawberry salad with refreshing homemade raspberry vinaigrette, fluffy, irresistible cinnamon coffee cake, and dreamy, protein-packed peanut butter eggs made with just 4 simple ingredients. I'm Katie Farrell, and we're making Easter both delicious and nutritious. I'm so excited today. Me and my family are going to enjoy an Easter brunch together, and my mom and my sister is going to be joining me in the kitchen, and we're going to make some of our favorite Easter brunch meals. Now, what I love most about Easter is, of course, the fact that we celebrate Jesus and his resurrection. So even more, I love being with my family, getting to talk about all the good things that God has done for us as we sit around the table. So to start, I'm going to make a frittata, which a frittata is just a fancy way of saying an egg bake with vegetables, cheese, bacon, all the good things. We're gonna make it a little bit lighter because we're gonna swap some of the eggs for egg whites, and we're gonna load this thing with veggies. Now, I do have some onion and bell pepper and broccoli that we're gonna add to this, but you could add any kind of vegetables that you like. For this recipe, you'll need 4 eggs, 2 cups of egg whites, 1/2 cup of cottage cheese, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 2 diced peppers, 1 small onion, 2 cups of chopped broccoli, 6 strips of bacon, and 1/2 cup of shredded cheese. So I do have 2 cups of chopped broccoli that I'm going to add to a saute pan. Now, you'll want to pick a really nice and big saute pan like I have here, because you're gonna bake the entire egg bake or the frittata in this saute pan. So you wanna pick something that's really big and deep, and cast iron works great, but stainless steel is also wonderful. Now, what I have here is frozen broccoli. Frozen broccoli is great for this recipe because then you don't have to wash and chop your broccoli. So you'll just wanna make sure that it's definitely cooked down so that you're not adding your eggs to frozen broccoli. So I have this over medium-high heat, and I just added about 1/2 cup of water. That'll start cooking the broccoli down, and then as that cooks, I'm gonna go ahead and chop up my onions and my bell pepper. So I have just a white onion for this. You can always skip the onion if you don't love onions, but what I like about using white onion is it is a little bit sweeter and milder than a red onion. So I just like the taste of it in my eggs. Again, you can use spinach, you can use any kind of veggies that you like. So what I like about most of these recipes is you can make them all ahead of time. So this frittata I make for Easter, and I also make it for Christmas because you can make it entirely the night before. The only thing that you have to do the morning of is actually bake it. So what I do is I literally just make the whole thing ahead of time, stick it in my fridge, cover it, and then the morning of I take it out and I bake it, and it's just as fresh as if I made it that same day because you're baking it in the morning. And then that way it just takes some of the work out, and you get to spend more time with family and friends and not worry so much about the cooking part. So whatever I can do to prepare ahead of time, I absolutely love to do, especially on holidays. So for the onion and the bell pepper, I'm just gonna cut it so that it's diced. And really, it can be to your liking. You could also just do really thin pieces. That's kind of like some wedges of onion and bell pepper, but I like to dice it. So just think, what do I like in my eggs, and how do I like it to be cut in my eggs? And that's how you'll want to cut up these veggies. So we're just gonna cook these veggies down until they're just about wilted, so just to the point that they're tender. You don't want them completely mushy, but you don't want them too hard, because although this is gonna bake in the oven, the vegetables themselves are not going to soften up too much. So you want to make sure that you really cook them in the pan before you add the egg mixture. Okay, so now we're gonna make our egg mixture. So this is super simple. You're just gonna take 2 cups of egg whites and you're gonna pour it directly into a bowl. Then you're gonna add your whole eggs. And this just lightens it up a little bit by cutting back on some of the whole eggs. So I'm adding about 5 eggs. You can add 4 to 6. The recipe does call for 4, but you just want to make sure that you have enough eggs to cover the vegetables. Actually, I might add just 1 more because you do want it to be mostly egg. And you can see you have a lot of veggies there. So we're going to go ahead and whisk these together. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. We're going to add some cottage cheese. This is a great way to add some moisture to your eggs, is through cottage cheese. It adds that moisture that keeps them from getting dried out, but it also adds protein. So I love adding cottage cheese to my eggs. And then we're gonna do some cheese. I'm gonna add a little bit on top, so just so it looks prettier that way. So I'm gonna add about half to the egg mixture. And then we're gonna add some bacon. Now, for this recipe, I add pre-cooked bacon. However, you could cook your bacon in the saute pan before adding the vegetables. So you can just saute it yourself right in the same pan, remove it, and then cook your veggies down. But I just went ahead and got some pre-cooked bacon. So whatever you choose. Now, if you're gonna use bacon, make sure you just trim it down just to little pieces before you add it to your egg mixture. So I'm gonna look at my veggies, make sure that they're sauteed. And you do wanna make sure that that water that you added is completely cooked off. You don't really wanna add eggs to water and veggies. That's just gonna be kind of like a very wet, soggy mess. So you wanna make sure that the water cooked off completely and your vegetables just start to get tender. So with the onions, it almost is like they start to become almost transparent when they're ready. And now we're gonna add our egg mixture. And you'll just wanna kind of pour it all around so that it covers the vegetables. And then I'm just gonna kind of slightly combine it with my whisk. Don't worry, that cottage cheese, you will not even know it's in there. It'll all kind of just melt together, just like regular cheese. And that already looks so, so good. So I'm gonna top it with some more cheese. And then I'm gonna top it with the rest of the bacon. And I always love to do that. Save just a little bit of the cheese or whatever's in there just for topping. And it makes it look so pretty. And kind of lets you know what's in there. So I don't know why it is, but I feel like you need to have something with eggs for Easter. It's just so important. Eggs are just part of the Easter celebration, aren't they? So that looks great. We're gonna bake this 350 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes, just until the eggs are completely set. So you might wanna just give it a nice little jiggle. If it jiggles at all, you'll wanna put it back in just until the eggs are totally cooked through and set. Well, my mom is joining me in the kitchen and we're gonna make a cinnamon coffee cake. And this cinnamon coffee cake actually is very low in sugar and it uses really simple, real food ingredients. So that's what I love about it. I actually have a coffee cake that is on Dashing Dish that's an almond flour version. This one is an oat flour version. For this recipe, you'll need 2 cups of oat flour, 1/2 cup of sweetener, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, 3/4 cup of applesauce, 1/2 cup of syrup, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and for the topping, you'll need 1 cup of oat flour, 1/2 cup of sweetener, 1/3 cup of coconut oil, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So for this cake, we're gonna have a base and a topping, just like a coffee cake should have, because that's the best part of a coffee cake, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
So
the
yummy.
topping. Actually, I think the best part about coffee cake is you somehow justify that it is like a breakfast, but really it's a dessert, so you could just have it all day long.
I know. And I eat the crumb topping off first.
Yes, yes. You're like Ollie with his cupcakes. Eat the topping off. So Mom, I'm gonna have you do the topping, and I'm gonna make the base for this coffee cake. So Mom, you can just add all of that to the bowl,
okay,
and then just kind of stir it up.
Are we using oat flour or almond today?
Yes, so this is oat flour. This is the oat flour version. But I do have an almond flour version. And on Dashing Dish, that's what I try to do. I try to do kind of a mix of both because I find everybody likes different ingredients and different types of flours depending on what you use at home. So Mom, I just love the fact that we get to celebrate Easter and have all of these traditions together as a family. It really is what makes the holidays for me, is just being together as a family. When we were growing up, do you remember, well, of course you remember, but what was like your favorite thing about celebrating Easter when we were kids?
Well, of course, coloring Easter eggs.
Yes.
And then the most fun part is hiding them. And I think your dad and I did such a good job that we were finding Easter eggs like 6 months later.
That's true.
Behind bushes, hidden in canisters in the house.
Yeah,
I really made it hard for you.
That's Hey, what the heck? I mean, I literally hide my kids' eggs so easy that they find them in like 2 minutes. We had to work for it back in the 80s.
And another fun thing was making hollow bread and then always putting the, it's just a sweet bread, and that's why I liked it.
Yeah.
And we would always put the colored Easter eggs inside, and I actually think that's a Eastern European tradition.
Yeah.
And of course,
I remember that bread.
Yeah.
We would decorate the eggs, we would color the hard-boiled eggs, and then we would put it in the bread, and we would kind of braid it.
That's right.
We would braid it around the eggs.
Yep. And we always would do the red eggs because it symbolized the blood of Christ.
Oh, yeah. That's a really neat tradition.
Good. We'll have to do that again sometime.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour the base of this coffee cake right into the baking dish. And Mom, once that gets together, almost like in it crumbles, which it looks like it's about there.
It's in a total crumble fashion right now.
That's when you know it's ready.
I was wondering at what point do I stop actually mixing.
I forgot to tell you, but you did great.
Good.
Okay.
Now, I know some people can't eat nuts.
Mom, can you put this in this?
But I always love, putting some like pecans in mine.
Yes, yes. I'm glad you said that. You could definitely add some crushed nuts to the top, but actually, let's just use our hands and kind of like just sprinkle it.
But I don't think Ollie would like the pecans, would he?
True, true. And I do try to keep nuts out of some of my recipes just because a lot of people do have nut allergies, but it's always an option. You can just add them to anything. I think even in cooking, just adding some nuts gives it some flavor and texture and healthy fats too. Mm-hmm. So you can't go wrong with how you put this crumble topping on. It's gonna bake right into the coffee cake when it rises, and so it's kind of blend together, and it's gonna be so, so good. The best part is for sure the topping.
But we definitely wanna put every crumb in.
Yes, you definitely. If you have to get a spatula and scrape the bowl, go for it. So we're gonna bake this 350 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes. The kids may be all about candy, but I've got a trick up my sleeve. A fresh berry salad loaded with their favorite fruits: strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries. It might not pull them away from the Easter egg hunt, but the adults won't be able to resist the naturally sweet, refreshing treat. All right, for our brunch, we're also going to make a light and fresh dish because I feel like when it comes to brunch, you just need something colorful, bright, and fresh. So we're gonna make a spinach salad with berries, and we're gonna make a raspberry vinaigrette to go with it. So Mom, this is gonna be like our beautiful salad. In fact, I don't know if there's a prettier salad than with all these berries. It just makes it so pretty. For this recipe, you'll need 6 cups of baby spinach, 1 cup of chopped strawberries, 1/2 cup of raspberries, 1/2 cup of blueberries, 1/3 cup of feta, 1/3 cup of onion, 1/4 cup of chopped pecans. For the dressing, you'll need 1 cup of raspberries, 1 tablespoon of sweetener, 2/3 cup of vinegar, 1/4 cup of avocado oil, 1 tablespoon of honey, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I'll have you chop up the strawberries. You can just slice them, and then slice a red onion pretty fine because nobody likes a really big chunk of onion in their salad. And then I'm gonna make the dressing. So we're gonna make a raspberry vinaigrette. It's so easy. You really never have to make your own dressing unless you're just short on time, which sometimes I am, and I do buy dressings. I just try to buy organic, and I try and look at the ingredients more than anything and just make sure that the ingredients are really simple, real food ingredients. So I'm gonna start for the dressing by adding 2/3 cup of balsamic vinegar. If you don't have balsamic, you could also do white or red wine vinegar for this. But those are really the only 3 I would use. Otherwise, it's gonna be just too acidic. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients to a blender. And we're just gonna blend this up.
You know, I think if people aren't familiar with balsamic vinegar, I like it because it already has a little bit of sweetness to it.
Yes, that's true. And if you don't like the seeds, you could always strain it out through like a mesh strainer, and that would take some of the seeds out of the dressing. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and blend this. So that looks great. You do want to make sure that it's blended really well, and that way the oil will really incorporate with everything else, and you won't have that kind of a separation of oil in your dressing. It'll still happen. You'll still have to shake it up a little bit as time goes on, but the better that you blend it, the less you'll have that separation. Look how pretty that looks.
That's beautiful.
Doesn't that look good?
And you know, homemade dressings are so much better than store-bought.
So much better. Better for you and better tasting. So Mom, you can go ahead and finish up those strawberries, and I'm gonna add some of the rest of the berries and the toppings to our salad. So Mom, you know, me and my sisters, we all serve the Lord, and we married godly men, and now we're all raising our kids to know the Lord. And a lot of times people say, what did your parents do that you all are walking with the Lord in this way? So tell us, what is it that you feel was the most important thing about raising your kids to know the Lord?
You know, that's good because I get that question a lot myself. People see how successful the 3 of you are. And I would say, you know, I'm not a perfect parent by any means, but it is by the grace of God. I think if there is one thing that I did right and consistently was that I prayed for you. You know, I prayed for you in the morning, and I prayed for you in the car. Do you remember that? Every time on the way to school.
Yep.
I remember Aunt Lori calling and saying, you know, hey, just want to talk. And I'm like, not now, praying for the girls.
Yeah.
As we go to school, prayed for you throughout the day, prayed for you at night. I think, in fact, when you were probably teenagers, you and your sisters had a little running joke about, you know, if there was any time or anything that would pop up, I would always say, let's pray.
That's true.
So I think just the grace and mercy of God, that He was so faithful to hear those prayers and to answer them.
Yeah, it's true. And now I'm the same way, aren't I?
Yes, you
Where
are.
I don't pick up my phone, I don't do anything. There's one thing I do not miss. It's every single day praying.
That's right.
It's every day.
That's right.
And I really know I learned that from you and Dad, because I don't remember ever seeing a day that Dad went to work before you prayed together.
That's right.
So this salad looks so beautiful,
beautiful,
and our dressing looks gorgeous as well. So when we sit down to eat, we can go ahead and add that dressing and toss it, and it will be so good. Can candy actually be healthy? You won't believe how easy it is to make my protein-packed chocolate Easter eggs with just 4 simple ingredients. Well, I have my sister Emily joining me, and we're gonna make our absolute favorite, which is peanut butter eggs.
My favorite.
I mean, this has been our favorite since we were literally in childhood.
Yes.
Did they have Reese's eggs when we were kids?
Oh yeah.
Like shaped in the egg?
Oh yeah, and now we just steal them from our children's baskets.
Yes.
That's what we do.
That's true. I wish I could say that I only ever make healthy peanut butter cups for my kids, but when it comes to holidays, I do put one little treat that I buy in their baskets. And sometimes I choose healthier options, sometimes I just put a Reese's egg in. For this recipe, you'll need 1/2 cup of peanut butter, 1/2 cup of peanut flour, 2 tablespoons of sweetener, 1/2 cup of chocolate chips, and 3 tablespoons of water. So you can go ahead and add the peanut butter, sweetener, and peanut flour to the bowl. Add the water last, just to kind of see how it's coming together, and you may need a little bit less or a little bit more depending on the consistency. You want it to be like a cookie dough when you're mixing it all together. And what I love about this recipe is it really truly is 4 ingredients. So you just need some melted chocolate. I always add a little bit of coconut oil to my chocolate just to make it a little bit easier to melt and a little bit easier to coat onto whatever you're coating. But what I love about these is they're higher in protein. So when it comes to treats with our kids, I always try and balance things out, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
So if you can balance sugar with protein, it does help your blood sugar stabilize a little bit better. Same with fiber. So fiber and protein paired with sugar is a really good thing as far as kind of balancing out your body.
Well, I also love making things at home because you know what's in it.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's kind of crazy, you know, how...
Well, we're realizing more, aren't we?
Yeah, it's like, if you can't pronounce it, chances are we shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah.
And so they add so much, you know, to preserve our food.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been really just trying to intentionally make homemade snacks, homemade desserts, even, you know, treats like this just from home, so I can guarantee I know what's in it, so it's clean for our family.
Yeah. When it comes to that dough consistency,
That's really good.
when you want to start to kind of get your hands into it a little bit, bring everything together, and then we can roll it into like little eggs, basically. And when you do that, when you roll it into like a little egg shape, then you'll just want to dip it in the chocolate.
Okay.
And I got 2 spoons to kind of
This would be fun for the kids to do too.
Yes, totally. So you kind of just roll into a ball first, kind of turn it into a little egg and kind of smash it down just a little bit. And that looks great. And then just coat it in some chocolate. And I kind of just like pick it up, but you could always just coat it in chocolate right on the parchment paper too. The only problem with doing it like that is then the chocolate kind of pools around it, which is fine. They're just not going to be as pretty. So I like to kind of let it drip off a little bit and then add it to the sheet pan. Love it. So how do you incorporate Jesus into Easter? Because I know we're the same as far as feeling like it's so important to make holiday traditions, really bringing it back to the reason for the season.
You know, Easter baskets, Easter, you know, the Easter bunny, all that stuff is so fun for the kids, but I try to be very careful in how much I talk about it and how much we celebrate with that kind of stuff, because truly the whole reason we even have Easter is because of what Jesus did on the cross, and it's a celebration that he's risen again. And so it's becoming easier now that my kids are older. They're 5 and 8.
Yeah.
And so in their school, they go to Christian school, so they do a really great job teaching it and reinforcing all the things we do at home. But this year was finally the first year where I feel like they were at the maturity level to understand it. And so we just had a lot of conversations. So leading up to it, really from the Sunday before Easter, we started doing devotionals, and I loved it because our church actually gave them these scratch-off bookmarks. And so each night as our devotional, they got so excited because they got to take a coin and scratch it off.
Cute.
And it told what scripture to read. And it was just a very short passage, but you know, the conversation as the kids get older is just so much more in depth.
Yeah.
And I got to ask them questions like, why do you think Jesus rode on a donkey? Like, why a donkey? You know, and so it's cool because they're understanding more as they get older.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we always have really good intentions when they're 3 and 4. But it's not until they get older that you're like, there's depth there.
Yeah.
And so I really felt like we hit this
this new phase with the boys.
I think it is important to start just talking about Jesus and explaining it even when they're so little, because it really does. It's really seeds planted.
Yeah.
But these look really good, and
so
I
good.
think that we could just eat the entire tray right now, you and me, if you want to. But maybe we should save some for Mom. She has been helping.
Yeah.
So, but you can just put these in the fridge or the freezer just to harden up the chocolate for just about 15 minutes, and then they're good to go.
They look great.
Well, Mom, this was so fun to make all these brunch recipes with you today. I just love Easter and talking about Jesus with you guys and eating really good food too. So you guys can go ahead and try the coffee cake if you like. Let me know what you think. I think that this is the perfect brunch menu. We have something fresh and seasonal for spring. We have an egg dish. We have coffee cake, which is always good for Easter, and then a little treat. Because who doesn't love chocolate peanut butter eggs?
So great.
I hope you and your family have an amazing Easter as well, and that it is just such a blessed time to reflect on the Savior's love for you. If you would like these recipes, you can head over to dashanddish.com, where you'll find recipes and more to nourish your body and soul.